Welcome to this episode of MG Midget, the birth of a race car. In this episode, we're going to have a look at Kingpin refurbishment and the stub axle overhaul. So first of all, let's start with the reason for the overhaul. On disassembly of the suspension, I noticed a couple of things. First of all, if you look at these diameters at the bottom of the Kingpins, one is different to the other. I think this might have been an earlier one, or it may have been modified, but the correct diameter is the larger diameter. And also, when I took the suspension apart, this is a new stud pin here. When I took it apart, what I noticed is there was quite a lot of play in this Kingpin here, in the suspension. So as a result, what I'm going to do is replace this Kingpin. I bought a kit. These are widely available. Here's a new Kingpin, and as you can see, when you put the axle through, no play at all. So that's nice. My challenge, though, however, is because this is a smaller diameter, the bush in the bottom of the stub axle is a smaller diameter as well. So what I'm going to have to do is fit a new bush, and then to get it to fit in the new Kingpin, I'm going to have to ream that out. Stub axle sub-assembly. So first thing I'm going to do is pre-assemble the anti-roll bar bracket onto the lower wishbone. Note this is a brand new one. As I was stripping the car, I could save one, I could get it apart, but in the other one, the cross pin here was completely and utterly seized into this piece here. So for the cost that they are, I've decided to buy a new lower wishbone. I'm using poly bushes, so to give the suspension a firmer feel. And the other thing to note, the modification here is I've decided to use some top brackets, which will give the camber for the front about 1 to 2 degrees worth of negative camber, which should help the handling and give better grip in the corners. So those are the two modifications. As you can see, I've loaded out the parts. We've got new dust covers, a selection of new grease nipples, pins, gaskets, and so on. 2 bushes ready for the second stub axle. That's going to go in as well. So I'm going to sub-assemble this first. First Kingpin back together again. I had to put a few extra shims on the top to get the trunnion to fit, so 9 in total. Tightened up to 40 pounds-feet as per the manual. New dust covers, and then new nipples, and all greased up. So it turns nice and steadily, no up and down movement. So now ready for mounting up to the lower wishbone. So first side done. Put the shaft in, cap, grease nipple, got the 2 cork washers in, grease that up, and this now turns, so, and it's no play in that whatsoever, so I'm pleased with that. Got the anti-roll bar bracket on, so we'll put our poly bushes in, and then that's ready to go back on the car. I'm just assembling the second stub axle here. I've already pressed in a new bush. I did that just using my bench vise that I have there. I missed out on a Kingpin reamer on eBay, so what I've done is I bought an adjustable reamer, which was a lot cheaper, and I needed the 25-30 tooths size, which is what the Kingpin runs at. So I've already run this down here once, as you can see at this setting, and I've tried my new Kingpin. That slots into place, but it doesn't quite go all the way down, it's still a little bit tight, so I'm going to have to open the reamer up a tiny bit more. We're looking 0.1 of a millimetre, I think, and then run that through, and then my Kingpin should drop in perfectly. ready for assembly. Expanded the reamer slightly and run the reamer through, and now my Kingpin drops into place perfectly, turns and is nice and tight. There's no play in that whatsoever, so this side is ready for reassembly. So spent a little bit of time just measuring up and getting this dimension here on top of the thrust washer correct. I've got 8 shims on there that should nicely fit into there. So we've got smack on a 6mm gap here and here, so when I clamp that down to 40 foot-pounds I should still be able to get a nice easy movement on the stub shaft. Let's see. So Kingpin's assembled now. Noticed got a little bit of play here. What I've noticed is that's the stub shaft there moving in the threads, so that's kind of telling me that that lower wishbone is maybe worn out as well. I'm going to assemble it, and if it's if there's wheel movement or it's not up to MOT standard, then I may have to replace that wishbone. So that's kind of a risk I'm going to take. Last thing to do, put the cap back on then, and then the front suspension is ready to be assembled to the car.